Is it time? Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and go live.
Yep, we're live.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome. Thank you very much for coming. This is the Chris Kennedy Publishing look ahead for the next year. The last little bit of 2017 and then the year that is 2018. I am Chris Kennedy, for those of you that don't know.
You are.
I am. I really am. Been a great year, the past year. I was at Fayetteville Comic-Con last weekend. Somebody came up and said, "Hey, how's your year been?" I hadn't seen him since the year before, and I pointed to all of the Four Horsemen books, there was a rack of 7. I said, "It's been kind of okay," and he was like, "Well, yeah, I guess so." And next year is going to be even bigger. So, Chris Kennedy Publishing's been around for 4 years. Sci-fi, mil-fi, a little bit of fantasy, some of the other things. Right now, 4 imprints, have about 15 authors. That does not count all of the authors that are part of the anthologies, of which there is another 40 of them. And then, it's mostly fiction. There's been a couple nonfiction. There'll probably be maybe one more nonfiction book on publishing. But aside from that, it's going to be mostly sci-fi, mostly mil sci-fi, although there'll be a little bit of fantasy coming in. First is Anticipation Press, which is YA. Right now, it is Jason Cordova. Anyone recognize that? Cover for that, which is Corruptor. You get a book. You're welcome to take a book off the table. That was, the Corruptor was Jason Cordova's book. I've re-released it. I have the next 3 books in that series. That one is already out. Devastator is finished and will be out here soon. Then Obliterator, maybe this year. Depends on how fast Jason gets around to it. He works a large number of hours. He's gone back and forth on whether he's going to stop that job. If he does, those will all probably be done this year. If not, they'll get there when they get there. New Mythology, which is the fantasy imprint. John Osborne. Anyone know that one?
Reluctant Druid.
Reluctant Druid, you get a book. You probably have them all. Yeah.
Exactly.
I opened my mouth at the same time.
Sorry, you gotta be faster.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm your ride home.
Good point.
It's a very long walk.
You got a book, so go get a book and give it to her.
There you go. All right, so urban fantasy. Reluctant Druid is part of the Milesian Accords. First one is out here this week, November 1st, which is Sam Hain. Great day to have a Druid book come out on. Next one is a Tempered. Yeah, that it was not an accident. A Tempered Warrior will be the second book in the series. It is a trilogy. Expecting that in the summer.
He's well into that book now, so.
He is.
Yeah.
And then Theogony, which is primarily sci-fi. It's got a couple that are not sci-fi here in the start that I'm going to go through. That's because they were part of it before I split off the other imprints. They would be in the other imprints, but just they're already out, so we're going to finish them where they are. Susanne Lambdin, she has The Realm of Magic. Seeker of Magic and Mistress of Magic are both already out.
Cool covers.
Looking forward to the 3rd book of that trilogy, which is Queen of Magic. That's a little dark on the picture, but that should be out here in December. It's in final editing. Claudia Newcorn. These are re-releases of books that were award winners. The first 2 are out, Crossover and Darkfire. Firestar is also in final edits and will be out in December as well. All right, next book, next series, J.R. Handley and Corey Truax. J.R., you want to stand up and tell the folks about what you're doing?
So my editor and I were working on a side project, and the press that we were going to submit it to for an anthology went under, and the premise was Area 51 and go. And so I had this idea, and I submitted it to him, and he said, well, I can give you a standard edit, here's door number 1, but I really, really liked it, and this is what I did with it if we co-wrote it, and this is door number 2, which is the series we proposed, the O'Dara Chronicles, and it's basically, took the idea of one of the first females to go through the infantry, and of course, while they might pass all the standards, they wouldn't necessarily initially be well received, and so what that might do, if you get promoted out of the field that you wanted to be in, just so that way they can get you in a corner, and so she starts drinking and they stick her in a warehouse in Area 51, and she finds things that she wasn't supposed to find, and ends up on an alien spaceship and go.
Awesome.
It's very fascinating premise. What, no cover yet?
No cover yet. I don't have any bit of the manuscript yet, so it's hard to. There is a contract in place for it. However, I haven't seen anything. Hard to develop cover from nothing. Jason also has the Kin War Saga.
Good book.
Great book.
Howard.
Yeah.
Well, lightly Howard.
Yeah, great book. If you haven't read it, you should. Wraithkin is already out. It's Mill Sci-Fi. Anyone?
The sequel.
The sequel, right, and it is
Wraithkin 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Darkling.
Get named for effort.
Yeah. Darkling is finished or just about, so it should be out here start of the year.
That deserves a bad death.
Give that book
Give the book back.
And then the third book in the trilogy will be Death Lords. Probably not out in 2018.
Not the rate he writes.
Not at the rate. Well, things may change.
This is true.
I regret nothing.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Kacey.
Kacey Ezell. You may recognize her from
Everything.
the anthologies because she has a story in all 3 anthologies. I realize you haven't seen the 3rd anthology yet, most of you. Some of you have, some of the advanced readers, but she's got one in all 3 because they're darn good. She is an excellent writer. Her book, her series is The Psyche of War. The first book is going to be Minds of Men, kind of a retro throwback sort of look for the cover. That was what she really wanted. It was kind of World War II postery sort of thing. Minds of Men comes out on the 10th. It is a great book, well worth taking a look.
All history.
The second book, The World Asunder, probably mid-2018. There'll be 3 books. Unfortunately, Kacey has never met an idea that she doesn't like. And she owes me that. She owes me a couple other things. She's doing one with Mark that we'll talk about. She owes this other company that does a lot of sci-fi. She owes them some things. Little company, Bain, you may have heard of it. And they actually had first claim on her, so I get whatever time is left over that she's not giving to them. So
I think the Air Force has first claim.
Well, this is
Yeah.
true.
for a little bit longer,
Or
but
maybe Easy has first claim.
well, yeah, okay. All right. So I've got like 5th claim, and I'll get to it when I get to it. But
She sent
this,
stuff to us through a secret email server.
I do know that this will be out on the 10th, and it is definitely worth picking up. All right. So Mark Wandrey.
Who the heck is that?
Nobody.
All right. You want to talk about
Earth Song. This is the first series that I wrote. I wrote the first initial story, Earth Song Overture, back in 2000 was when I first wrote it. My son was a very young child, and I decided I wanted to actually write books, and wrote them over the course of about 10 years to get the whole series out. And I stopped writing it about 5 years ago because, well, nobody's buying it. But it was a really good series. It just needed a editor. It needed a little bit of editing, right, Beth? Just a little bit. Yeah. So I rewrote the first book because I had written the first one 17 years ago, and we're relaunching the series. Chris looked at them and liked them, even though they were horribly edited, and said, you know what, this is a great series, we should do it. So I said, all right, if you publish these other ones and redo them, I will finish the series out with the final books. And this is the schedule we have, and we've got covers, and we've got editing, and all that good stuff, and we're going to release in pretty quick order. So there'll be a lot of really good books out. And I'm very proud of this series. This is pure space opera. Whereas Four Horsemen is military sci-fi, this is space opera, but there's also a lot of military in it as well.
There were originally 5 books,
Yes.
but now there are going to be 6. One of them was 243,000 words, which makes a great door stopper, but is hard to package well. So we're going to split that one in half, and the original 5 is going to become 6, plus 7, 8, and 9 at some point as we go along here.
They're scripted, ready to go. One of them's already half written.
Yeah. So basically every other month for the next year. So if you like good space opera,
You got some covers in there?
there's coming.
There you go.
All right, it is a complete redo on the covers. You can see that it has changed quite a bit. There is a portal involved, so a lot of the covers you will see, that kind of portal-y looking thing.
These are step across the galaxy in one-step portals, or instantaneous transformation.
Sonata and Orionis,
Orionis.
Lost Aria, Etude de War, and then Twilight Serenade.
There's another one called Anthem that's the split of the Etude de War that we don't have a cover for yet.
Yep. So, there's this other thing, A Time to Run.
Yeah, something about a Dragon-nominated book, finalist. This was
Well,
my
that
first-
one isn't, but...
Well, The Time to Die was the Dragon-nominated finalist, and the sequel, A Time to Run, is halfway finished. It just got sidetracked again by the Four Horsemen universe. It's basically written. I got about another 20,000 words or so to put it in the can, and it's good to go. He was just harassing me on the way down to his con, so when am I going to see it? What do you want first? I said. He says, when are you going to see it? So I need to start putting in some words in this to get it done. This is zombie apocalypse with a science fiction twist. It's a little bit like Black Tide Rising, except in this case it's not human-made, it's an alien-made virus, and they are zombies. They're living zombies. They're not dead. So there's some science behind this, loosely. I apologize to Ted in the room right now. So it's science, Ted.
The veneer.
That's right.
Veneer.
That's right.
It's mostly dead.
We slathered on some science.
Mostly dead work.
There is a science overlay to
That's
this.
right.
Science mayonnaise.
I also have the rights, in addition to Time to Run, to anything else in this series.
Time to Kill.
So the third book is
It's
A Time to
trilogy.
Kill.
Yep.
So also in 2018, I will put out The Progenitor's War, which is the next book in my Theogony series, the one that will follow the Dark Star War. I have promised that to too many people that I can't not do it anymore. Yeah, the
And you're
horseman
gonna
thing.
sleep when?
Yeah, I'm going to sleep periodically.
It's for the week, next week.
There are a couple other things that talking with people about. You will see a story from Doc in the third anthology. It is really, really good. I asked him to write more. He may or may not get around to that. I'm hoping he does. If so, it's going to be really, really good. Same thing with Phil Bulger. He's got an urban fantasy he's working on. Hopefully he'll get more into that and we'll finish that off. I'd love to bring you that one as well. So there's some other things also that are out there that may come to pass that I think are really neat, but they're not even as far along as that, which isn't really very far along. But there are some opportunities, I think, to bring you some other great sci-fi that is a little bit different. The medic story started in the Four Horsemen universe, obviously, since it's in the third anthology. It may or may not stay there, depending on how it goes. So that's why it's currently right now here in the Theogony rather than in Seventh Seal. Speaking of Seventh Seal, that is the imprint that does obviously all the Four Horsemen. So last time this year there wasn't a single Four Horsemen book released. We had talked about it. First one didn't come out until December.
December 15th, 2016.
Right. So in the past year, there's been 4 main storyline books. There is one book that is soon to be storyline. It was being integrated into the main storyline, so you will see Peacemaker going forward come even closer. and then there's the 2 anthologies that are both out as well. We asked author friends that we knew, hey, we want to expand the universe a bit. You know, would you like to write a story?
Like to come play?
We hoped for 10 short stories. We got 35. So that's why there are 3 anthologies. So, still coming here this year, the 3rd anthology.
The Good, the Bad, the Murk.
There you go.
Yeah,
You
it gets
get
a
a
book.
book. Good, the Bad, the Murk. 16 stories, 15 authors. I just couldn't stop Mark. He wrote 2.
I was supposed to be
at least
finishing-
it wasn't one story that's 15,000 words.
I was supposed to be
It's two.
finishing a short story, and I wrote a 3,000 word little vignette instead. And I'm like, I wrote this. What do I do?
This is my shocked face.
Have you considered as a tagline, "Not all who Wandrey are lost"?
Give that man a book.
Yeah, you get a book.
2 for him now.
The thing about this one that isn't maybe quite as much in the other 2, there is some looks back at the past, and there's some really good Easter eggs for moving forward.
This has a lot of hints of what's to come.
Yeah,
This one.
so this one,
It's a lot darker.
this one's also a little bit darker.
Yeah.
This one is war. This is war with some of the ugly stuff. There, yeah, it's a little dark.
There's a lot of stories that do not have happy endings.
Yeah.
Mine wasn't dark enough.
No,
No.
Oh, okay.
yours was dark, but it ended happy, sort of. He got what he wanted.
He died.
He died. Okay, so the other one. Anyone got this one? This was out this week.
For a few credits more.
Nope. This is a standalone.
No, the other one.
Casper Alamo. This is, like I said, Eric S. Brown, Jason Brannon. This book is actually 2 novellas where they loosely reprise the Battle of the Alamo and the Battle of Iswandala. Yeah, Island, that place. The Zulu Dawn. Basically, Zulu Dawn and the Alamo, which you probably remember didn't turn out good for the home team it turned out good for the home team in Zulu Dawn, but that's because they own the place. But didn't turn out well for the Western Army. It's also going to be out here this year. It is in final editing, should be out December 8th. That one's a little squishy, but probably December 8th. So, looking forward to the 4 Horsemen in 2018
Here we go.
from Mark and I. The first book, you want to talk about that?
The first book, Alpha Contracts. Everybody kept saying you guys talk about the Alpha Contracts. I did a search, and it actually turns up referenced like 300 or 400 times in books that we've written. And everyone keeps saying, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And Chris and I said, we'll do it in a few years. Back when there's lots of history and everything, people said, no, we don't want it in a few years. We want it now. So we did it. Chris and I split them up, took our units. I did Cartwrights and Winged Hussars. He did Asbrand and Horde, and we wrote the backstories. So basically it's 4 novellas, each one 25,000 words. And to tie it all together, there's actually something we call Letters from Iwo. There's letters from a unit that went off also to fight, but is not one of the 4 horsemen.
So, where did they go? Who knows?
You'll have to read the book to find out.
Yep. That should be out early January. It is almost finished. Here's the cover for the first time.
And there you see for the first time the 4 horsemen. That's the original
And
commanders.
there's the tagline, never meet your heroes.
Because it might not be what you're expecting.
You're welcome to come up and see that after. Doesn't quite show as well on there. Okay, then coming up the rest of the year, we get into the Omega War. And that is going to carry on where Golden Horde left off. It is going to get into the badness. First book, probably April. Mark is going to become a full-time author here soon.
As of December 31st, I quit my day job and I write full-time.
So that's going to help speed up some things. That is also how he's able to do several different series here that I've talked
And
about.
I was just talking about, I have an idea for a new universe. He looked at me like, what?
What? 3 isn't enough? You need more?
Well, I'm going to finish one up, so I need to know.
Yeah, finish. And then other Omega War books that we're expecting to have this year, Dark Moon Rising or Risen, we're kind of playing with that.
Dark Moon Arisen is the better.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? What's better, Dark Moon Arisen or Dark Moon Rising?
Not risen.
Arisen indicates that it's already happened.
Not arisen, just
Okay.
risen.
Okay.
And then A Pale Dawn.
That'll be a trilogy.
So there's this Kevin Eikenberry guy. He wrote a short story in the first anthology. A lot of people said, hey, that's great. That Peacemaker girl, I want to know more.
If you guys didn't know the backstory of this, we created a Bible for the anthology, so all these authors didn't have to read all the books because we heard that was a big complaint from anthology authors. I want to write in, David Weber's universe, but there's 3,000 books. I don't have time to read 3,000 books. We said, well, here's a Bible. You read this, you'll be able to write in it. I threw in almost the last minute, so let's write in these Peacemaker guys. They're the Union's version of an enforcer. They basically keep wars from breaking out. They're not law enforcement because there's no laws. They're just, they keep the peace. They make the peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it in, and 3 people wanted to submit stories in them. I'm like,
Actually, it was 5.
was it 5? Yeah.
Five out of the first 14.
I'm like, you're kidding me. Next book we got another 3, I think, in the second
Yeah.
one. So we picked the 2. I think,
After we said no more,
yeah,
3 people still wanted
I think there
to.
were 3 stories with Peacemakers in them in the first anthology, and Kevin Eikenberry knocked his out of the park. And we said, you know what? There needs to be a first human Peacemaker. And he said, okay, I can do that. So we went back and changed it. And at the end, if you read that story, what the other Peacemaker says, have you ever thought about being a Peacemaker? And that led to the novel Peacemaker. And
Right.
the novel was well received. So
So it has become a trilogy, which is going to lead it into the main storyline. It is going to become part of the main story going forward.
his book will tie in with the Mega Wars.
And there's the next one, which is Word. Yes, there are words. There are 3 words. The first is something like Harrington. It's Honor the Threat. Honor the Threat will be the second one. It is coming along very well. It should be available. It's going to be there's going to be a whole grunge at the start of the year, kind of like there was this summer where we were releasing them every 3 weeks. There's going to be another period of that from the probably February on, where there's a bunch of books, one after the other, after the other, after the other. Like I said, it's going to tie into the Omega Wars, and then there's going to be a 3rd book as well in this series.
Piece by piece.
All right, so Kacey's back. Like I said, never met an idea that she didn't like.
You remember a little story in the first anthology called Gilded Cage?
Yeah.
You
Okay.
like the Depic?
Okay, this is actually, Assassin is the name of the book. So you're welcome to a copy as well. It was originally Depic Assassin. We're dropping the Depic and just going with Assassin. For those of you that have read it, understand that the cat shadow is important.
Meow.
Meow.
This is also doesn't tie into the Omega Wars exactly. It kind of ties into the thread, though. May tie into the series ultimately
We'll have to see.
in some things.
We're taking Kacey off the chain here. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah. So doesn't like you can chain her anyway.
Well,
I mean,
this is
you know.
true.
Oh,
But at least
man.
before she only had 10,000 words. Now she's got a whole book, so.
Yeah. Well, and that was the one thing. Minds of Men is her first solo book. She's had short stories in a number of anthologies, and everyone has been very excited about it. She's a phenomenal writer. I'm excited to be publishing the first one. This one will be her second one out the door. She is writing it with Marissa Wolf. It's going to be really, really good, and it probably going to turn into a series too.
As you do.
Yeah. So, and then there was more, because, that's not enough in the Four Horsemen universe. You may remember Tim C. Taylor, P.P. Corcoran, Paul Corcoran. They both had stories in, Paul was in the first anthology, Tim was in the second anthology. Those are their units. Sinclair Scorpion is. Midnight Sun was Tim C. Taylor's. They are going to be writing into the main storyline. They will each have stories that'll come out at the start, in the start of the year.
Their arc will be introduced in Fiery Sunset, basically.
Yep. They will come in with Fiery Sunset, and they will be part of the main line there. Chris Woods has, he wrote the story Legend in the first one, which was actually one of my favorites. It was probably one of the most lighthearted of any of the anthology
The
stories.
only one besides Alpha Contracts that is a story written in the past.
Right. Well, there were a couple others.
Well, I mean, you pull
but
the
this
books.
one, yeah. And it was really good. I really liked it. He's going to write more about the legend that is the legend. And then there's because Kacey and Mark don't have enough that they're doing, and neither have met an idea that they didn't like.
Or a word count. If in the newest anthology coming out, Kacey's story is really small, about 3,000 words, and she wrote a little one about what's the title of it again? Meeting. Damn it. Good beginning or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's like a good beginning.
Anyway, what it is essentially, you'll see it is a Tortantula baby and a baby Flatar meeting for the first time, and it's this wonderful little story. And I'm not going to say anything more about it, but we started talking on IM, and I said, you know what? There's a lot of stories.
Okay, little background. She showed it to me. It was one of those things. She woke up in the middle of the night and went, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool?" And whenever she does that, she then writes about 3,000 words. She came up with how she wanted the Depic race to be, and sent me a 5,000 word history of the Depic. She really did. Like one day later, I had already used Depic in Golden Horde, and she said, "Hey, I've got this idea about these cat assassins." And I said, "Wow, I just wrote that. Here's what I did." And she went, "Oh, okay, well, can I do this and this and this?" "Sure, you can do that. Yeah, that's all cool." Next day, a 5,000 word, "Here's the history of the Depic." Like, holy crap. And then that's where the cat assassins came from. So she got another idea. "Hey, I'd kind of like to do this little thing." And she sends me this 3,000 word vignette. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." It had me in tears. It was so cool.
You say what happened when you sent it to me?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I was so excited. I'm like, "Oh my God, Mark's gonna love this. This is wonderful. I can't wait to stick it in the third anthology." I sent it to him, and he's like, "I hate it. I hate it. That is the worst I've ever seen."
But
hate it? How can you hate it?
There's
He's like,
a reason I hated
that's
it.
my thing. I wanted to do that.
Who here has read Winged Hussars? Oh wow, one person, awesome.
Two, you're in.
Okay, in the story, there's the character Urt is a Tortantula, and it's an interesting character, and I wanted to get into more of the history of the Tortantula, and she did it before I had a chance to do it. I was like, and if you remember, they're working in a sandbox, but that's mine. And that was my first reaction. I sat and I grumbled and I thought, and then I finally had a grow up moment and went, you know what? I got to put my big boy pants on. This is actually awesome.
Well, a little bit being a couple hours.
Well, yeah.
I had gone on and
I had
was,
a beer
I
and
was
thought about
so
it.
angry.
Oh, I could tell through the IM he was pissed. He's like, really? That's what he said, just really. And I'm like, okay, maybe
It's my thing.
Maybe my reaction wasn't the best reaction I thought. So I sat on it for a while and I talked. So I got a hold of Kacey and I said, "I just read this. What were you planning on doing?" Blah blah blah. Oh, okay. Blah 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 blah. And I said, "Well, what about this?" Blah, blah, blah. She's, "That's cool. What about this?" Blah blah blah. And we came up with a novel basically while he's fuming in his living room, like, damn Wandrey, you know. And so we come back and we say, "Okay."
No, you don't come back to me. You start posting things on Facebook, making fun of me. Because I wasn't angry enough at that point. He starts posting funny things about how he's going to screw his publisher.
I can either confirm nor deny any of this. But the end result
And I had
was
picked up his contract and it was like, should I tear it? Should I burn it? What's the best?
the solution. The problem is 51% ownership of the Four Horsemen universe. That's what kept you from tearing that in half.
So there was that.
But the end result is Kacey and me had the idea to do this book together. And this is going to be fun because we're both original in a lot of ways. And Kacey can take it off the hook when she wants to. So this is going to be a really fun book. And it's a story. Basically, it's a Tortantula, Flatar love affair. Is how we're describing it.
And I've shown my wife some of Kacey's stuff, and she's like, she really gets down into the feelings and how feelings work, and it's more a visceral sort of thing. that really affects you.
And her
that's what I
Her
loved
voice
about
is
it.
the tarantula, and mine is the Fatar, and that's how we're going to write it from those. So she's writing about a 10-foot wide spider, and I'm writing about a 1-foot tall squirrel with a gun.
I'm okay with
Well, not a squirrel, chipmunk, but
Seems right.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah.
For the legend story, is it going to start with the unit he starts with, or the one he joined at the
it
end?
picks up right after the end when he joins Cartwright's Cavaliers, while they're developing the Casper for the first time. Yep. It'll be a lot of fun. I've seen some of the early stuff. He keeps asking me questions about Jim Cartwright.
Yeah. Okay, and then there will be probably an anthology toward the end of the year.
We're switching to one anthology a year,
Yep.
so everybody knows.
And there is in Golden Horde there is a bar right at the end where they get together. That's called the Lion's Den. You may know the person managing the con suite upstairs, Joel Lyons. He said, "Hey, how about putting in a bar called the Lion's Den? I'd love to start that bar sometime." So that it became the Lion's Den in the book, and there may be we're playing with the idea of Tales from the Lion's Den, which would be you've got a place Waterhole in Houston where all of the mercs come to tell lies. There's that's something like that has been done in the fantasy world in the past, and that would be kind of an interesting concept.
In the Four Horsemen world, most of Houston's turned into a star.
What?
Is he writing a story for that?
He may. We'll see. So we'll see where that goes. That one's kind of a squishy thing right now. There will be an anthology.
You've used that term before. You care to get into more detail on that?
No, I don't. I want it to be squishy. Okay, that one isn't going to happen yet.
Yes, that's a Casper riding a Tyrannosaurus Rex with a chain gun.
Shut up and take
Gimme.
my money.
I know, right?
This
And
was originally
yes,
the cover for the first anthology.
Yep.
But then we had the idea for the spaghetti western theme, and we had to redo the covers.
And Chris was really mad about that for a little while too. But
But you put your big boy panties on.
Yeah, I put my This one, there is the start of a story for this.
It will be a book eventually. 'Cause it's
T-Rex
just too damn
with
cool.
the chain gun.
They're dangerous enough without the gun. I have to read this.
Okay, so
Chris, I think this is where I should kick in.
okay,
with
why
my
don't you?
project.
We'll just leave that up there because
Yeah.
it's too cool not to.
Because I'm not standing here because I'm going to put out a ton of content that is original from the Four Horsemen universe. I only have one story in there. While I have other ideas, none of those are anywhere close. But I do have something else that I'm going to be working on, which will explain why Chris may be talking some about my books, which have nothing to do with any of his presses. But you'll probably see him talk about them some because I'm going to be building a wiki for the Four Horsemen universe. If you guys...
So
If you
all
guys
the
don't
stuff in the
know-
Bible, everything, he's codifying it.
I'm going to codify it, and it will be a true wiki. You'll be able to click on every link and bounce around to places,
Names, people, weapons,
races,
vehicles.
all of that stuff that Kacey did on the backwards story of that race. That will probably go up there. We're going to put everything we can up there. Whatever he says should go up there, and we're going to start adding that because this is a huge sandbox. Because it's not all just Mark's or Chris's,
But it's mine.
but it's all his. There are now 40 or 50 of us who are writing in this, and there are going to be more. I will be writing this wiki. It's a standard wiki software. TikiWiki is what I used for my world.
Tiki Wiki. I love it.
TikiWiki, yep. It's a great software package.
Wasn't he one of the
Yeah, you get extra tiki torches and Polynesian characters in Four Horsemen now.
We could do that.
And segueing off that, we are going to be launching the mercenaryguild.us. Will be the source to go to find anything else about the Four Horsemen universe, and that'll lead to the wiki as well.
One of the other things that the wiki will have possibly available, and I'm going to ask you guys if you would be interested in it, I can add a forum where you guys can get in and talk to all the people who are interested in it. The authors can, create.
Kind of a Bane bar, basically, for the Four Horsemen universe.
Would you guys be interested in something like that? That software exists. It takes me no time. Well, I have to click one checkbox. Would you guys be interested in doing something like that?
Yes.
It would mean you would have to create not necessarily to view the wiki, but to post in the forum for security purposes. You'd have to create a screen name and log in and all of that. Is that a problem with anybody? All right, so we'll add that. What other features would you like to see in a more interactive format online.
Regular update of when books are coming out.
That will be the kind of thing that he will be able to update on, whatever schedule in his copious spare time that he can do on the front page of the wiki. And we'll probably have, for that's a good point, we'll probably have a separate page on the wiki that will be a release schedule. In fact, it'll be an entire release schedule that will continue to include all of the books and their Amazon links. What else? Anything else that you guys would like to see on this kind of a website? Sure.
But in this universe, as I get into it, maybe a chronology would be good.
There will likely be a timeline in there that's the
Yep.
kind of thing that makes that's already built up in the Bible to a certain extent.
When we started it, we avoided dates because we didn't want to get into it early on while we were setting up this. Now we're actually setting a locked chronology going forward from Megaworks.
And we have all of the different Casper models and when they were introduced. So that'll be.
He asked me one day to give me a few details, and about 2 hours later, I sent it back 3,000 words with the full development history of all the Caspers, including different blocks of each model.
Chris, one day you're going to stop asking questions.
No, that's good. We need it. If I don't have to do it, I'm okay.
Well, I didn't want him to do it because antimatter. So,
See, part of the problem for us who were writing novels in this, stories in this world, is that we kept peppering them with questions. What about this race? How does this race do that? Or how does this work? How does that work? And they're like, well, I don't think we've talked about that particular thing. The body language of a Kachkala, we haven't decided all
what
of that.
color blood is a Minshaw?
Yeah, I actually chose
Blue.
a specific color of blood, copper-based.
Blue.
Yeah,
it's blue.
And it's blue. So those kind of details we're going to put in so that the authors we can use it as a resource, and they too can be. Oh crap!
Because I think we're up to now 8 authors writing in the main story.
Yeah, in the main novel. So that's going to become. I'm going to start the layout and design of that next week. By the start of the year, that will be done, and I will be putting in entries. And this is not obviously going to happen overnight because I still have my own day job of my own writing to do. But in the meantime,
It'll be a work in progress.
It will always be a work in progress because every book that comes out, every time an author wants to add something to the corpus, we can add it, and I will continue to add. It's one of the beauties of Wiki, and there will be a lot of links that are question marked to start with, of course. But we're going to put it all out there, and it's full-fledged Wiki like Wikipedia, except it's all for Horseman awesomeness.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And that's something that has been definitely something that has needed to be done. So
I've been asking people, do you want to give up half a year of your life?
Yeah.
Nobody jumped on it for some reason.
Which is why, to explain why I'm doing it and not doing my publicity as much, he is
I'm going to help him with publicity.
Which is why you're going to see him pushing my book some, even though they're still mine.
Yeah. In addition, there is also somebody that is working on an RPG for the Four Horsemen universe. So there may be some game action ultimately. That is
And we're in the early stage of developing a computer game.
So
They're examining the software. We're trying to pick an engine that would work, and we want to see what's possible. So nothing promised for 2018, but my engineer who's working with it says if we can settle down and we can get a team going, we can probably have an alpha going probably sometime in 2018. It'll be alpha playtesting.
So
Check your Steam account.
yeah.
Probably.
So there is a lot of interesting things that are being worked on. A lot of places we're going with this. I want to thank you very much for your support. None of this would be possible without your support. I also want to give a shout out to Beth, who is here. Beth is one of the editors.
An editor.
Well, and now the assistant publisher that will be working with a lot of this going forward.
And she gets
too.
an extra hand because she edits my stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Please.
So
You might have Philip and JR just be stand up so that you can see some of the other writers.
okay, everybody that's written a story in the universe, stand up. Okay, so
Thank you.
you can see there are a number of people that are working. Hopefully they're going to continue to contribute to it. We are still expanding. The
And we're
universe
always
is
welcome for your feedback. Go to our
Yeah.
web pages and drop us a comment. Go to Facebook or whatever and say, hey, when are we going to see those?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
So about that antimatter.
lots of action adventure coming. No message fiction. We don't do that. It's going to be a huge year. Thank you for your support. Questions?
He had
What is the antimatter joke? Come on.
He really doesn't want it. I wanted it. He has 51% of say in the universe. I said, yes, yes, yes. He said, no.
The world building up to the point of the first 4 books was entirely me. I developed this universe to write a book and offered Chris to come in originally. He couldn't do it. A year later, when the first book, Cartwright's Cavaliers, was about halfway done, he was able to. He looked at it, we talked, and he decided, let me publish this.
Well,
We
actually,
went
you
forward.
said you publish it.
Well,
we'll
yeah.
do this together.
But you wanted me to ask you, so you wanted me in your fantasy world.
So why are you against antimatter?
Well, we're going to talk in World Building 101 later today with Larry Correa and stuff. We're going to talk about what it takes to build a world. One of the things is balance. And I wanted more of an old school feel universe here. And if you've read the Four Horsemen books, you know this isn't artificial gravity, this isn't antimatter, this isn't faster than light communications, this is very Heinleinian. You've got
Einsteinian travel.
Newtonian physics, Einsteinian travel, the ships you travel. Other than the stargates, which is your entrance to hyperspace, your ship can't go in without a stargate. Everything's very straightforward. You want gravity, you got to spin your ship. You can only go so fast. You know, your ships can do 12 Gs. Well, your pilots can't, so that's a bad idea. Mostly missile combat, laser combat, and energy weapon combat is much shorter range. You have drones to fight out of range. There's no AI. A lot of these things you're going to find out why. Antimatter does exist. Nobody uses it. Why? You'll eventually find out. Some of these questions will be answered during Omega Wars. Like everybody says, you've got nanites, but the technology level seems lower than it should. We will explain some of this. There is reasons this universe is the way it is. So that was what we hashed out to create this balanced universe and make it work the way it does. The Stargates, you notice there's an emergence point and a Stargate. They're in different places. That's actually the mechanics that I set up to make intergalactic combat possible. If you can pop out of hyperspace above a planet, how do you defend? You can't. So I made 2 rules. One, your ships emerge in a hyperspace emergence point opposite the Stargate, and it's against the law to attack a planet from more than 10 miles above, below 10 miles. You have to get below 10 miles before you use energy weapons on a planet's surface. That's pretty easy to defend at that altitude. Otherwise, you just stay up at 400 miles and just drop beam weapons on them, you know? So that's the world building.
I've got a whole pile of fence poles, or telephone poles. Here we go. Hey, there goes your city.
Remember that frigate that was destroyed? We're just going to send that down, you know? Yep. So that was what we did there. It's just become a standing joke because Chris, if you've read his theogony books, he loves antimatter. He has powered suits run by antimatter. I looked at that and went, no, we're not doing that.
And it's become a joke. It's on
It's an in
Facebook.
joke.
We go back and forth. There's a story in one of the anthologies where they try and come up with antimatter. And we told him I told him that there was going to be this story about antimatter. He said no. The author, started posting about it. He's like no, posting angry faces, and we continue playing with it. And he and I are talking on Facebook, Messenger.
I'm like, you're not going to do it. And sure enough, in the inbox for the anthology is a damn story about antimatter.
And it's a good story, too.
But not only
And
that.
what else he does, it talks about artificial gravity. I'm like, what else can you throw in there that I wasn't going to allow in the
And
universe?
who is the person in the universe that gets really angry and throws over their desk? That would be Professor Wandrey.
Yep. Yeah, he's a professor of the Science Guild who gets pissed off at the research in antimatter.
So that's the joke in kind of a. not
Anybody
quite-
who watches us online and thinks we're mad at each other, we never really are. This is all part of our dynamic.
Except that one time.
Maybe the thing about the whole...
Almost always that's the case. But we get over it.
That's it. That's the coming up year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.